The thing that's amazing about disc golf, and especially on the Pro Tour level, is that it's not dominated by just one player. There are arguments for who the player of the year was, but since I've been watching disc golf, it's never been a blowout. The sport would be boring if it was. If you know for certain that the same dude was going to win every event, then you would stop tuning in to watch them play. With that being said, I wanted to bring you guys my players of the year. Yes, I think one person had a better season than the rest, but that would take away from what happened throughout the whole season. Some players dominated early on, some players had a better finish during the playoffs. Either way, it's not just about one player. This season there was a distinct line. I believe the top 6 guys showed themselves to be of a higher level than the rest of the field. These players played great. You can argue that they were in the conversation for Player of the Year. We had Elite Series, Silver Series, Majors, and playoff moments. All of these added up to these guys being regarded as the best in the sport for the 2022 season. Now I'm going to name my Player of the Year, but before we get to who won that award, I'm going to run through everyone I thought was in the conversation. These are the best players of 2022 and the last man standing, and that would be the Player of the Year. Let's hop right into it. The start of Chris Dickerson's year had a lot of questions. Transitioning from Prodigy to Discraft, he left the disc golf community wondering how he would be able to handle the change. Well, he dominated the first part of the season. Right out of the gates, Dickerson was there competing for wins. Las Vegas, he was in it right after round 1, but then dropped back. Waco, he tied for 5th, a pretty solid showing. But this is when his season started to kick off, winning back-to-back Silver Series events at the Open at Belton and the Music City Open. For those of you who don't know, we have Majors, Elite Series, and Silver Series. These are all in contention when discussing Players of the Year. Silver Series are smaller events worth less points, but it doesn't mean I don't value them. This helped build Dickerson's confidence because right after the win at the Music City Open, Dickerson would fend off every player higher on this list than him at the first major of the year. The new added major, the Champions Cup, was a very tight race, won by Chris Dickerson. Fending off Calvin Heiberg and Ricky Wysocki, Dickerson won the first major of the year. This would be his last win, slowly tapering off the rest of the year. A couple good showings with 4 more top 10s. 2 of them second place finishes at Idlewild and GMC. Dickerson had an amazing start to the season, but he just couldn't keep that pace. Still a great year and a player worth mentioning. I've already said his name, Calvin Heiberg had an amazing year. We saw in my last video his 2 Elite Series wins, both of them coming from sudden death playoffs. 2 wins for the year, but the emphasis for Calvin needing to be mentioned is his dominance year-round. He only won twice, but he was in contention so many times that you had to pretty much beat him to win a tournament. 4 podium finishes for Calvin. Calvin was battling it out with the best all year, with Ricky at Texas State's, Burr and Gibson at Vegas, Simon at OTB, all of these finishes, Heiberg was right there. Deglow in Jonesboro would be where he got the job done though, beating McBeth at Jonesboro on the first playoff hole and Corey Ellis at Deglow, also on the first playoff hole. Finishing 3rd in point standings for the year, it shows that Calvin had one of the best overall seasons in regards to finishes. His last few events he didn't do too well, they kind of took away what he accomplished the whole year, but those can be forgotten. He fought for majors, he won Elite Series events, and he was one of the best players of the year. Another stellar year from Calvin, and one that we expect to see in the years to come. The same thing happens every year. Everyone says this guy's had a bad year and he's not up to his potential, but then he's still in the conversation. No matter what other guys do on the list, Paul McBeth's not going anywhere. He's a competitor, a world-class champion, and he was a top 4 player of 2022. Technically, McBeth won his first event of the year. We didn't get to see him at the Las Vegas Challenge, but we did see plenty of him at Waco. Starting out hot and finishing hot, it was McBeth versus Humphreys, and McBeth came out on top. His only Elite Series win of the year, and it was a good one. A couple close calls over the next few months for McBeth, but he just couldn't get the job done. Jonesboro was close, he lost in a playoff to Heiberg. Ledgestone was a battle for McBeth, trying his best to catch up, but at the end he falls short, again getting 2nd place. But for disc golf, and for majors I should say, you're gonna have to contend with McBeth at one point or another. That's why McBeth is here. His year of majors was pretty impressive. Starting with the European Open, it was a complete 2-man race. Paul McBeth able to use all of his shots versus Eagle McMahon, Eagle not using his sidearm. 3rd place was 16 shots back, not even remotely close. These 2 guys took off with it. A battle of birdies would ensue, but McBeth would be the one to make a costly slip up. On 17, he would throw it OB and take the bogey. Eagle played awesome, can't take anything away from him, but man, this was one of the best head-to-heads we've ever seen. McBeth loses by 1, but he wouldn't let that be the end. The next major at Worlds, McBeth would come back with a vengeance. Long courses and a long tournament, but McBeth was built for it. Battling some injuries, we saw him fighting for everything. But when it came time for him to fight it out with Aaron Gossage, McBeth was ready. After Gossage threw in the water on the first playoff hole, McBeth landed on the island, redeeming himself from the year prior. McBeth finishes at second in tour points with a major title and an Elite Series win. Another year of adding to McBeth's legacy. Rookie of the Year last year to one of the best players on tour. Burr falls just short from really being in the discussion for Player of the Year. And when I say short, I mean man, he was so close to winning so many times that if he had won just one of those events, he would be right there. Gannon started off the season hot, losing to Gibson in a playoff at the Las Vegas Challenge. That's just the start. Podium finishes at the Mid-American, Ledgestone, MVP Open, and the Tour Championship. So close so many times. Gannon did get a couple wins on the year though. The Masters Cup Silver Series event, Gannon redeemed himself to get his first win on tour. It wasn't an Elite Series win, but it was against a pretty solid field and it put him on the board. With so many podium and top 10 finishes, it was a no-brainer for Gannon to be in the top 4 for tour points. But he wouldn't be here if that was all Gannon had done. Like I said, he had multiple wins, and if you've watched any of my videos, you know how much I value major championships. Like always, USDGC is such a huge event for the disc golf community. It's a hard one to win, unique layout on a unique course, it requires a lot of patience and very accurate shots. Gannon brought his A game, and so did a lot of other players. McBeth and Calvin right there. Ricky had his moments as well, but Gannon wouldn't battle with them. Instead, Nicholas Antela would give him a lot of trouble. So much trouble, in fact, Gannon had to birdie the last 5 holes to win by just one shot. Hole 17's putt will go down in history as one of the clutchest putts we've ever seen. Gannon was able to not only hold on, but to take down a major title against the best in the world. A very bright future for this kid, he has a lot to offer, but for right now he's going to have to settle with a USDGC title and a podium finish on my Player of the Year. This was by far the most surprising result of the year. Not only were the fans wowed when Simon started to win, but also Simon was. It was like he didn't believe it was happening himself. And then it just kept happening over and over again. This guy was running away with everything. Simon has had a long road to recovery, and we have all been cheering and rooting him on these past few years, but as for me, I was just hoping for Simon to get into contention a couple of times. Let's see him on a few chase cards for this year. I was going to be happy with that. But when Simon got second at DDO, I was like, okay, here we go, he's in this. Then he won his next 2 events, and then got a 3rd place at the Preserve. Going back to back is incredibly hard on tour. Hasn't been done that often, so when Simon won at the OTB Open, then at the Portland Open, he was quickly in the running for Player of the Year. He didn't stop there. Crazy playoff win at the Des Moines Challenge where he battled it out with Robert Burridge. The best sudden death playoff of the year. And then something kind of funny happened. Simon's home turf, the MVP Open at Maple Hill. Last year we saw Simon get to throw the honorary shot off the first tee for the final round because he had missed the tournament. Now, Simon was battling it out. This one was weird because he wasn't on the lead card. So rare for someone to not win off of the lead card. But some mishaps happened and Simon was in the right position at the right time. Win number 4. 4 Elite Series wins for Simon Lizotte, who before this had only 1 Pro Tour win and 1 National Tour win. We all look to Simon as being a great disc golfer, one of the flashiest out on tour because of those Simon lines, but this year was different. He slowed down, he showed patience, his ability to attack these courses not with the crazy game plans, but by putting himself in the best position and capitalizing on it. It's strange to say, but this was by far the best yearly performance we've ever seen from Simon, and it will go down in history as one of the best seasons on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. Sadly, the number 1 guy had just a bit of a better year. Last year's Player of the Year race was tough, and I mean really tough. This year was a 2-man race towards the end, but when it was all said and done, Ricky Wysocki is the clear-cut finalist. Let's start with this. 4 podium finishes for Wysocki and the leader in Pro Tour points. That's the first and easiest stat to look at. The next one, well, he had 5 wins on tour. That's pretty hard to beat. Starting with Texas State's, Ricky does not lose that tournament. My money from now until forever will always be on Ricky to win every Texas State championship there is. Next, we have Ricky battling with the wins at the Dynamic Disc Open. While everyone else battled, Ricky dominated. No one came close to touching him. He coasted to his 2nd Elite Series win. Ricky was able to whoop on the toughest course on tour at Ledgestone. Dominated the woods and the open park styles, Ricky again coasted to another Elite Series victory. His final Elite Series win came at the Green Mountain Championship, where he tried to throw it away at the end but recovered just in time to secure Elite Series title number 4. But I said 5 wins. For some reason, there seems to be a bit of a backlash that the Disc Golf Pro Tour gets when it comes to the Tour Championship. It doesn't get the credit it deserves. The way I see it, you have the 4 major championships from this year on the highest level, just a notch below them is the Tour Championship. Then the final notch includes Elite Series tournaments. Look, the Tour Championship is built up by the points you acquire all year. The seeding matters, it's a battle every day to survive. The only downside, Ricky won it by only playing 2 rounds. But the way he finished that tournament by birdieing the super tough hole 18 to force a playoff, then birdieing it again in the actual playoff to win $35,000. That was the icing on the cake. 2022 Player of the Year and the best disc golfer in the world, Ricky Wysocki. Thanks for watching, guys. What a year of disc golf. So many amazing events with so many amazing players. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about my rankings. What would you have done different? Make sure to check out my channel. Plenty of videos just like this. Alright, we'll see you next time. Cheers.